Go, boy. Get him up. Get him up. Get him up. Get him up. Good, man. Nice. Cookie. Come on. Get him up. Get him up. Come on. Get him up. Get him up. Get him up. Get him up. Come on. What are you doing? Get him up. Cookie. Push up. Push up. Good. Go. Get him up. Come on. Cookie. Cookie. Get him up. Good boy. Good boy. There you go. Good. Good boy. There you go. Cookie, come on. Come on. Get up. Come on. Good boy. Come on, Cookie. Get him up. Good boy. Come on. Get up. Come on. Come on. Down. Down. So, just kind of explaining a little bit about how livestock move and how your dog has to move livestock. So his natural tendency and what he wants to do is wear. So he wants to go back and forth, side to side, constant movement behind the stock. Hush, hush. That works really well for light stock that's not going to challenge a dog. It works really well for big groups. It works terribly for small groups. Wearing works well for large groups of animals that are free moving, that don't require a lot of push from the dog. Just kind of works to keep the livestock together. It doesn't tell the animals where to go though. So because there's no definitive balance point when the dog is going back and forth, they're not telling the animals where to go. They're just hazing them in a pattern and kind of almost following along behind. When your dog gets too close to cattle, your cattle start to weave. So they'll start to look back and look back and look back. That's because the dog is way too close to the heel. And then at some point, what's going to happen is the cow's going to get really tired of looking and looking and looking, so they're going to stop movement forward, and they're probably going to turn and face the dog. And at that point, the dog needs to have a nose bite or a head bite, or at least stand their ground and say, okay, no, I wanted you to go forward. But the power, the presence of the dog is what pushes the animals forward from the back. Also the fact that the dog is in the eye of the animal, not on the heel. So the animal, when it's looking forward, it can see behind it about 180 degrees. So about like this. So as long as your dog is here, or here, or here, your animal can see it and continue forward movement. When your dog is here, the animal can no longer see it. It knows it's back there, which is why it keeps turning and turning to look. These guys are normally fairly flighty. So if the dog has push at all, these guys normally will move. They do tend to stick on the fence because they're young. They haven't been super broke. But the Jersey that he was pretty close on the heels of started to turn and look and turn and look and turn and look. And then she turned to face him and he kind of faded out of the pressure. So that's the holding pressure part that we talk about when we're talking about herding. It's very important on all livestock. It's important on sheep. It's important on goats. that is really, really important on cattle too, because cattle and goats will call your dog out really quickly about that. And the cattle will start to learn, goats will too, what the dog's weak point is. If the dog is real heely and every time the cattle allow the dog near their heels, the dog will bite, the cattle will start to turn and just face the dog all the time. So you'll see them get in a pattern like this where they stand kind of in the middle and they put their butts towards the middle and their heads all out towards the dog, and then the dog doesn't feel like it has anything it can bite, so it will lose interest. Same thing with a dog that's really heady. If the cattle are never allowed to go away from the dog and the dog's always coming around towards the front and harassing, biting, abusing your cattle, they will start to just hole up and put their heads towards the middle and present their heels to the dog, because they know the dog doesn't have that power on the heels. So a lot of what I'm doing with this dog right now, really just trying to allow him to get a feel for this on cattle, and not trying to put a ton of rules on him. Basically, I'm trying to get everything moving and kind of keep it moving so that he's successful. He can get a feel for going between the fence and the stock. He can get a feel for moving cattle. I think if I took him in a bigger area, he would be off contact. So we're working in a smaller area right now. He is off contact a fair bit, in my opinion. He tends to go and sniff things and get distracted and look at the goats or the sheep. We're just trying to work through it at this point. So I'm switching up my sets and I'm not working him on the same set every day. I don't want these guys to be bitten and chased and harassed, so I'm encouraging him to get in there and push. But if he starts to, so the downside to that is, when you do ask your dog to push, they're going to push, or they're going to do what comes naturally for them. So you can't really make a head dog out of a heel dog. You can't make a heel dog out of a head dog. So when you ask the dog to come in and push, they're going to do what comes naturally. I would say he doesn't really have a preference for where he bites. He's usually going to be behind on the heels or on the back half. He'll kind of get up underneath them, but his thing is that he likes to kind of split one off and chase it. So as soon as he starts to kind of get pepped up and get in there and start to push the animals, if he starts to split one off, I have to step in and correct that, and then send him back to work without him losing his gusto, because the gusto is kind of what's going to make him able to move these calves. The movement, that just wearing back and forth, they start to think, well, this dog's not really pushing on me, this dog's not really controlling where I go, he's just showing up randomly in places. So I better just stand in the middle and I won't be harassed. And as you can see, this is kind of unusual for this set of calves, since they don't normally choose to stand in the middle. So as you can see, he has trained them to stand in the middle, but they're standing in the middle because they're not going to have to work in the middle. Because he's not going to push on them hard enough to make them respond. So I do have to kind of allow him to get in and push on them. Hush, Hank. These guys do kind of, no. These guys do kind of have a little bit of a kick to them if the dog gets in and starts pushing pretty hard. So I'm a little careful of that because I don't want him to get kicked and discouraged. But again, that's just something he's just going to have to deal with. There's no way around that when you, no. When you start putting dogs on cattle, if they have ill-placed bite, if they have, like if they're heel dogs or whatever, they're probably going to get themselves in a mess. Even if they're head dogs, they're probably going to get up underneath cows or do something. This is more typical of what they do, but he's taken completely all the pressure off of them. So now they're going back to the fence line, kind of looking out towards the field like, hey, we'd like to go back out with our friends. Anyway, we're going to get back to work. Down. Good. Get around. Good and then release that pressure on the animal. Give it the opportunity to move. Don't continue to split them off from the herd. Good boy. Get him up. Good boy. So, you know, a bite is just like a 1 second thing, like telling the animal, you need to do what I ask, and then they need to release all pressure on as far as the aggression part, and then just hold their ground, because the animal will probably choose to move off the dog after that. If they continue to harass the animal will think they have no choice except for to fight. So then that's when you end up having animals who will